Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going to do something that feels a little bit dangerous.
Dangerous. That's a strong word for what we usually do. We look at texts.
I mean, dangerous in the sense that we are stepping into a territory that most of us, I think, try very, very hard to avoid. You know that feeling when you wake up at 4 a.m.?
Oh, I know that feeling.
The house is dead silent, the fridge is humming, and suddenly, for no reason at all, you start questioning every single life choice you have ever made.
Ah, yes. The witching hour of the soul. That's a very real thing.
Exactly. That midnight anxiety, the crisis of meaning that only hits when you're completely exhausted. Usually we distract ourselves from that. We, scroll Instagram, we watch a show, we try to go back to sleep.
We do anything to avoid that silence.
Anything.
Yeah.
But today, we are leaning into it. We are staring right into the void of 4.04 a.m.
And we are doing it through a very specific and I think very unusual lens. We aren't looking at a stack of psychology papers today or, a history book. We are looking at a single image.
It's one image. It's a screenshot from a smartphone. But honestly, the more I looked at this image during prep, the more it felt like I was intruding on a private moment. It felt, almost voyeuristic.
It is intimate. That's the perfect word. It's a snapshot of a theological breakdown happening in real time.
So let's set the scene for you because the visual context is half the story here.
Yeah.
It's a vertical smartphone screenshot. And right at the very top, the time is visible, 4.04.
Which is significant. 4.04 is not late night. 4.04 is early morning. It's that liminal space. The mystics, they often say that's the time when the veil between the physical world and the spiritual world is at its thinnest.
Right.
But practically speaking, it's also the time when your prefrontal cortex, the logical, rational part of your brain, is just tired. Your defenses are completely down.
That's when the big questions sneak in.
That's when they kick the door down.
Right. And the background image behind the text, it's so normal, it's almost jarring. It's a photo taken in the backyard. It's grassy. You can kind of see the dew on it. There's a tree, maybe a citrus tree, just barely visible in the gloom.
And a car.
And in the background, there is a dark sedan. A car just parked there.
Lit by those little solar garden lights you stick in the ground. You can just make out the shape of it. It's so domestic.
Yeah. It's the most suburban, mundane image possible. It just screams, quiet Tuesday night. But then overlaying this image of a parked car and some grass is this scrolling text of poetry.
Written in white letters on a semi-transparent black background so you can still see the backyard through it.
And it's signed by an author who goes by HMW. And at the very bottom, there is a purple yin-yang symbol, an emoji.
And that contrast, the boring, solid car versus the scrolling ethereal text, that is where we are going to live for the next hour. Because this isn't just a poem, it's a wrestling match.
A wrestling match between who or what?
Between the part of us that wants to be divine and the part of us that just lives in the suburbs and drives a sedan and has to get up for work in a couple of hours.
So the mission today is to deconstruct this text line by line. It's titled The Shoelace and the Divine. And I have to say, when I first read the title, I thought it was trying to be cute. The shoelace and the divine, like some kind of modern fable.
Yeah.
But by the end, I realized the shoelace is actually the most important part of the entire thing.
It is. The shoelace is the punchline and the thesis all at once. But we're going to cover a lot of ground before we get to that shoelace. We have to talk about the burden of being created, the toxicity of the barter system in religion, the trickster nature of the ego, and this massive concept of ancestral love.
And we're going to talk about Gani Baba, a name that was new to me, but is, I think, key to this whole thing.
We absolutely have to talk about Gani Baba. You cannot understand this text without understanding him. He's the philosophical anchor.
Okay, let's jump in. I want to start with the opening lines.
Yeah.
Because right out of the gate, the poet throws a punch.
It's a rhetorical uppercut aimed right at the heavens.
The source text reads, "Depths to which the best creation reaches, realms to which the best creation reaches. Had ye Father Een called him best for the sake."
Okay, let's pause right there. Best creation. We have to just sit with that phrase for a second.
It sounds like a compliment. It sounds like something you'd want to be called.
It does, doesn't it? Employee of the month. Best in show. But here, it's loaded with so much theological weight. In many traditions, specifically Islamic theology, which this poem seems to be borrowing heavily from, human beings are called Ashraf al-Makhluqat.
Which means?
The noblest of all creatures, the best of creation.
And why? Because we have consciousness. Because we can think.
Because we have free will. That's the core of it. Angels do good because they are, for lack of a better word, programmed to do good. Animals follow instinct. But humans, we can choose. We have the capacity for reason, for art, for understanding the divine. We are the crown of creation.
Okay, so if I'm the best creation, that sounds great on paper. I'm at the top of the food chain, spiritually speaking.
It sounds great until you really think about the implications. Look at how the poet frames it. Depths to which the best creation reaches, realms to which the best creation reaches.
Depths and realms. He's talking about a spectrum.
A vast spectrum. Think about the full range of human behavior. Because we are the best creation, with this incredible capacity for choice, we have the highest capacity for good. That's the realms. We can write symphonies, we can build hospitals, we can sacrifice our lives for strangers, we can go to the moon.
But we also have the depths.
Oh, we have the depths. We have a capacity for cruelty that animals don't possess. Animals kill to eat or to survive. Humans kill for ideas. Humans build concentration camps. Humans create systems of oppression that last for centuries. The depths of the human psyche are terrifyingly deep.
So the poet is looking at this huge, violent range, the saint on one end and the monster on the other, and acknowledging that we, the best creation, contain both.
Exactly. We have the potential for the highest heaven and the lowest hell all within us.
And then comes the question that kicks this whole thing off. Had ye Father Gut called him best for this egg?
For this.
That word, this, is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
It is the anger of the entire stanza. What is this? What is the poet referring to?
Well, looking at the picture,
Yeah.
this is standing in a quiet, grassy backyard at 4:04 a.m., staring at a Honda Civic.
Exactly. And can you imagine the cognitive dissonance there? You are told by your theology, by your philosophy, by millennia of human thought that you are the best creation. You are the masterpiece of the universe. You are stardust with consciousness. And yet, your reality is mundane.
Your reality is just this. Bills, insomnia, feeling kind of lonely in a backyard.
It feels like a breach of contract, doesn't it? I was promised greatness and I got this. It's not a complaint about suffering, not yet. It's a complaint about mediocrity, about the sheer ordinariness of it all.
It's like, I have this incredible capacity for realms and depths, and I'm using it to, what? Worry about my car insurance.
It's a cry of existential disappointment. Father, did you really design this high-performance universe-spanning machine just to have it idle in a driveway in the middle of the night?
It's almost like the poet is embarrassed on behalf of God. Like, really? This is your best work, are you sure?
I think that's a great way to put it. It's not anger, necessarily. It's a deep, profound confusion. It's looking at the brokenness of the world, or maybe just the quiet brokenness of the self, and asking, is this it? Is this what you had in mind?
And that feeling of personal failure, of not living up to the best creation label, I think that leads perfectly into the next section. Because the poet goes from questioning the grand design to questioning their own performance within that design.
Yes. The focus zooms in from the cosmic to the personal.
The text says, a little mind couldn't hold on to thy rope. Forgive the pious fear for the sinners to breathe.
Okay, we need to stop and really unpack thy rope. Because to a modern Western listener, a rope might sound like a leash, like God has me on a rope.
Yeah, it sounds restrictive, controlling. Don't run away.
But that's not the imagery here at all. This is almost certainly referencing the Quranic concept of hablila, the rope of Allah. The metaphor isn't a leash on a dog. It's a safety line for a mountain climber hanging over a cliff.
Oh, that's a huge difference. A completely different feeling.
That's a total paradigm shift. Imagine you are hanging over an abyss. The abyss is chaos, nihilism, despair, total loss of self. The rope is the connection to the divine. It's the covenant, it's the guidance, the revelation. Holding the rope is what keeps you from falling into the dark.
So when the poet says, a little mind couldn't hold on to thy rope, they aren't saying, I was rebellious and I ran away. They're saying, I wasn't strong enough.
Exactly. My grip failed. It's an admission of profound weakness. And look at the phrasing. A little mind. Not a bad mind or an evil mind, just a small one. A mind that got overwhelmed, a mind that couldn't process the magnitude of the climb or the pain or the doubt, and so it slipped.
That's heartbreaking. It changes the tone from rebellion to tragedy. They didn't jump, they fell.
They fell. And now, from the bottom of that fall, maybe lying in the grass at 4 a.m., they look up. And what do they see? They see the people who didn't fall.
The pious.
The ones still holding the rope. And this is where the text gets, I think, truly revolutionary. Forgive the pious Sora for the sinners to breathe.
I have to be honest, when I first read this, it completely stopped me. I had to read it 3 or 4 times. Forgive the pious. Usually the pious are the good guys. They're the ones doing it right. Why on earth are we asking forgiveness for them? Should we be asking forgiveness for the sinners?
You would think so. That's the standard script, right? Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, or forgive those who trespass against us. But here, the script is completely flipped. The poet is advocating for the sinners by asking for mercy on the righteous.
So what is the poet saying? That piety is a sin, that holding the rope is wrong.
No, not at all. But they are saying that a certain kind of piety can be suffocating. Let's use that rope metaphor again. Imagine a lifeboat in a stormy sea. The pious are the ones sitting securely in the boat. They followed the rules, they held onto the rope, they got their seats. The sinners are the ones thrashing around in the water trying to stay afloat after they fell.
Okay, I'm with you. I can see that.
Now imagine the people in the boat are sitting up straight, taking up as much space as possible. Maybe they're even hitting the hands of the people in the water who try to grab the side of the boat, saying, "You shouldn't have fallen in, you should have held the rope, you didn't try hard enough."
They're sucking up all the oxygen in the room.
But they are taking up all the space. Their judgment, their rigidity, their performance of righteousness is actually making it impossible for the people in the water to even catch a breath, let alone try to climb back in. Their piety has become a weapon.
So forgive the pious means forgive them for being so hard on us, forgive them for their lack of compassion.
Forgive them for their lack of compassion so that we, the fallen, have enough space to exist. It implies that the rigidity of the saved is actually killing the lost. The sinners can't breathe because the saints are standing on their chests.
That is heavy. It's a plea for space. Just let me breathe. I know I let go of the rope. I know I messed up. But your constant judgment is making it worse.
It creates this fascinating, almost codependent relationship. The sinner needs the pious to be forgiven, just so the sinner can survive. It frames the sinner not as a villain, but as a victim of spiritual suffocation.
But wait a minute. I want to push back on this a little bit just to play devil's advocate.
It's a complicated idea.
Isn't there a value in holding the rope? If I'm one of the people in the lifeboat, I might be thinking, hey, I did the work, I disciplined myself, I held on when my hands were bleeding and I was exhausted. Why am I the bad guy now?
And that is the valid defense of the pious. It is hard work to hold the rope. Discipline is real and it has value. But the danger, and I think this is what the poet is warning against, is when that discipline turns into arrogance. When I held the rope becomes I am better than you for holding the rope.
When the focus shifts from your own salvation to someone else's damnation.
Precisely. The moment you start enjoying the fact that others have fallen, your piety has curdled into something else. It's become about ego.
Which is the perfect segue to the next section. Because the poem tells us exactly what happens when that arrogance creeps in. The poet talks about getting tricked.
The great trickster.
The text shifts here. It becomes more personal, and we get a foreign language. The source says, Ya siala kiwagara, ya jana musawera. And then it switches back to English. And then he tricked me with, I bow for I out, and never for thee.
We have to talk about the Pashto. That's a really important choice.
Yeah, tell me about that. Why switch languages right in the middle of a thought?
Pashto is an Eastern Iranian language spoken primarily in Afghanistan and parts of Pakistan. By dropping into Pashto here, especially with the rhythm of those words, ya siala kiogara, ya jana musawera, it feels like an incantation. The poet is grounding this very abstract internal struggle in their blood. This isn't just a philosophical thought exercise. It's an ancestral memory. It's a chant from home.
It feels primal, like they are calling out to something very old from their own roots.
And then comes the English response, the consequence. And then he tricked me.
Who is he? Is it the devil? Satan?
It could be, but in this context, he is almost certainly the ego, the self. In Islamic mysticism, it's called the nafs, the lower self that is driven by pride and desire. And look at the nature of the trick. The trick is the line. I bow for I and never for thee.
I bow for I. It sounds like a riddle. What does that even mean?
It's the ultimate spiritual trap. In any theistic worldview, the fundamental act of worship is to bow to the Creator. You bow to thee. That is the act of submission, of humility, of recognizing something greater than yourself.
Right, that's the whole point of bowing.
But the ego, the nafs, is cunning. It's a trickster. The ego says, look at how well I am bowing. Look at how pious I am. Look how much better my prayer is than that person's prayer. Look at how tight I am holding the rope. And suddenly, who are you worshiping?
You're worshiping yourself. You're bowing to your own good deeds.
You are bowing to your own image of piety. I bow for I. You've made an idol of your own righteousness.
So the trick is that you think you're being incredibly religious, but you're actually just being a narcissist.
Bingo. It's spiritual narcissism. It's the person who prays loudly in public so everyone can hear how devout they are. They aren't praying to God, they are praying to their own reflection in the eyes of others.
And the poet says, he tricked me. That implies they didn't see it coming. It was a sneak attack.
That's why it's a trick. No one wakes up in the morning and says, today I'm going to become an arrogant hypocrite. It happens slowly, subtly. You start doing good things. Then you start patting yourself on the back for doing those good things. And then you start judging people who don't do those good things. And before you know it, you are bowing to I, not to thee.
It connects right back to the little mind. The mind was too small to see the trap. It was too focused on the act of holding the rope to realize it had started worshiping its own grip.
Precisely. The little mind fell off the rope, tried to get back up, and in the process got tricked by its own ego into thinking it was the center of the universe. A classic spiritual pitfall.
So we are in a really bad spot here in the poem. The poet has fallen, they feel suffocated by the so-called pious, and they've just had the horrifying realization that they are accidentally worshiping themselves. They need a reset button, a lifeline.
Need a new set of rules, a different philosophy.
And they bring in a referee. They invoke an authority. The poem cites Gani Baba.
Likewise, Gani Baba said. A very deliberate name drop.
Who is this guy? Why him?
Okay, this is where we have to go a little deep, because you cannot understand the rest of this poem without understanding Ghani Khan. He is often called the mad philosopher of the Pashtuns. He was a 20th century figure, the son of a famous political leader, but he was a total bohemian, a poet, a sculptor, a painter.
Mad philosopher is a great nickname. Want that nickname?
He earned it. He was a rebel in the truest sense. He was deeply spiritual, deeply in love with the divine, but he absolutely despised the rigid, organized clergy of his time. He hated the mullahs who, in his view, used religion as a tool for control and as a business.
A business.
A transactional religion. And that is exactly what the poem cites him for. The text says, likewise, Ghani Baba said, this is not a barter system. Grant me not that barter system.
The barter system. This feels like the core thesis of the poem, doesn't it? This is the central conflict.
It is the absolute central conflict. Everything pivots on this idea.
So let's define it clearly. What is the barter system in a religious context?
It's the vending machine model of God.
Insert prayer, receive blessing, push B7 for forgiveness.
Exactly. I put in 5 daily prayers, I get out a promotion at work, I put in $1,000 of charity, I get out good health for my family, I avoid alcohol, I get a ticket into heaven. It's a trade, it's a contract. If I do this, then you must do that.
And what's wrong with that?
I'm glad you asked that directly.
No, seriously, I'm playing devil's advocate here for a second. Isn't that just fairness? That's how the rest of the world works. If I work 40 hours, I get a paycheck. If I study for the test, I get an A. Why shouldn't faith be the same? If I'm a good person, shouldn't I get good things?
It feels fair. It appeals to our innate human sense of justice. It's operant conditioning 101. Rat pushes lever, rat gets pellet. We are wired to want the pellet. We understand that system.
Right. I want the pellet. We all want the pellet.
But here is the profound problem with applying that model to the divine. If your relationship with God is based on a trade, it's not a relationship, it's a business deal. And what happens in a business deal when one party doesn't hold up their end of the bargain?
You get angry. You sue them. You walk away from the deal.
You quit. I prayed, and my mom still died of cancer. Therefore, God is a fraud. I was a good person my whole life, and I still lost my job. This whole religion thing is a lie. The barter system is incredibly fragile because life is not fair. Bad things happen to good people all the time. If your faith is a barter system, it collapses the very moment real, inexplicable suffering arrives.
So Ghani Baba and our poet M.W. are rejecting the deal entirely.
They're rejecting the transaction. Look at the language of the poem. Grant me not that barter system, dear father of fathers. Right. 3 exclamation marks. This is not a casual request. They are begging, please, whatever this is, don't let this relationship be a trade.
Because if it's a trade, it's devoid of love. It's just commerce.
Exactly. I don't want my children to love me because I pay them an allowance. I want them to love me because I'm their father and they are my children. The poet wants what the mystics call raza, the pleasure of the divine itself. Not just the rewards from the divine. They want the connection, not the transaction.
That is a beautiful, high-minded, very spiritually advanced concept. Unconditional love. No strings attached.
It is the highest form of spirituality. To love God for God's sake alone.
But And this is where the poem just completely floored me.
Hmm.
We are not high-minded beings. We are humans standing in a backyard.
We have feet.
And our feet have shoes, and shoes have laces.
This transition in the poem is, in my opinion, an absolute stroke of genius. It's what makes this a great piece of art.
It's so abrupt. We go from Father of Fathers and the philosophy of Gani Baba and the rejection of cosmic barter systems to a shoelace. The text reads, "But what when my shoelace breaks? Neither my will of the forbidden drink, nor of bliss's fountains on glaciers reflected by moon, but not a barter system, and ye fix my laces, I plea."
Okay, let's back up just a second before the lace snaps. Look the huge stakes the poet sets up right before it. Forbidden drink and bliss's fountains.
Right. Forbidden drink is clearly sin, temptation.
It's the apple in the garden. It's the thing you want but aren't allowed to have. It's the ultimate test of will.
And bliss's fountains on glaciers reflected by moon. It's just beautiful writing.
It's gorgeous imagery, fountains on glaciers. It evokes cold, purity, eternal refreshment, otherworldly beauty. It's paradise. It's the ultimate reward.
So the poet is making this grand claim. I don't care about the biggest sin on the table, the drink, and I don't even care about the biggest reward, the fountains.
They are claiming they have transcended the barter system. I am not motivated by the carrot or the stick. My love is pure.
But what when my shoelace breaks?
The record scratch, the comedy, the tragedy, the humanity of that line is just perfect.
Why the shoelace? Why such a tiny, insignificant, trivial thing?
Because the tiny things are what actually break us. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, crashing headfirst into theology. It is easy to be philosophical and high-minded about heaven and hell because those are abstract concepts that may or may not happen in the future. But a broken shoelace, that is happening right now.
It's the immediacy of the annoyance. It's the friction of the real world.
Think about it. You can endure a major tragedy, a death in the family, a job loss, sometimes with incredible dignity and grace. You brace yourself. You find meaning in the suffering. You rise to the occasion. But then you're late for an important meeting, you're running out the door, and your shoelace snaps.
And you lose your mind. You just completely unravel.
You scream, you curse the universe, you look up at the sky and say, really? Of all the things you're doing this to me today?
It's so true. I can handle a genuine crisis, but I absolutely cannot handle a slow Wi-Fi connection or a printer that won't print. That's what makes me want to burn the house down.
Exactly. The little mind can't handle the friction of daily life. And what does the poet do in that moment of trivial frustration? After all their grand pronouncements, "Ye fix my laces, I plea."
They ask God to fix the shoelace.
Which is what?
A barter system. It's the smallest, most petty barter system imaginable.
It is the ultimate barter system. I am your best creation, now please fix my shoe.
It's a demand for divine intervention in the most mundane aspect of human life. So the poet is catching themselves in their own contradiction, in their own hypocrisy. They just spend an entire stanza begging not to have a barter system, and then in the very next breath, they demanded a transaction over a piece of string.
It exposes the hilarious and tragic hypocrisy of the human condition. We want to be mystics floating above it all, but we act like toddlers who drop their ice cream cone. Daddy, fix it.
And the poet knows it. That next line is the moment of self-awareness.
Wow.
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 It is truly a barter system look now.
That wow, it's so conversational. It breaks the fourth wall of the poem. It's like they're turning to the reader or to themselves and just shaking their head.
How do you read the tone of that wow? Is it disappointment? Is it a joke?
I've thought about this a lot, and I think there are two distinct ways to interpret this realization. Interpretation one is cynical. It's a moment of self-loathing. Wow. Look at me, I'm a complete fraud. I claim to love Gani Baba's philosophy of unconditional love, but really, deep down, I just want my life to be easy and convenient. The world is a barter system because I am incapable of anything else.
That's the dark night of the soul reading. That's the 4 a.m. despair kicking in. What's the other one?
Interpretation two is grace. It's a moment of gratitude and wonder. Wow, it is truly a barter system. Imagine the poet looking down at their shoe in the grass, and maybe the lace is fixed. Or maybe they found a way to tie the two broken ends together. Or maybe the frustration just suddenly evaporated and they felt a sense of peace.
And they realize, wait a minute, I asked, and you answered.
I asked for a ridiculously small thing, and you gave it to me. Maybe the barter system isn't a cold corporate contract. Maybe it's just a parent helping a child with their shoe. Maybe the exchange of I ask, you give isn't commerce. Maybe it's actually a form of intimacy, a conversation.
Look now.
That phrase grounds us in the immediate reality. Look now. Don't look at the stars. Don't look at the theology books. Look at your foot. Look at the grass. The evidence of whatever is true is right there in front of you.
It feels like a moment of surrender. Okay, I'm not a great philosopher after all. I'm just a guy with a broken shoe, and you help me. And like, wow, thanks.
And that humility, that acceptance of being small and contradictory and in need of help clears the way for the final section, the final movement of the poem where everything comes together.
The address changes again. It started with Father, then it escalated to Father of Fathers. Now,
dear ancestral love.
I love this phrase, ancestral love. It's so warm and specific.
It's a huge shift. It takes the vertical relationship, me way down here and God way up there, and makes it longitudinal. It stretches back in time. It acknowledges that faith isn't just something you invent in a backyard at 4 a.m. It's something you inherit. It flows through the blood.
It connects back to the Pashto verses. It connects back to invoking Gani Baba. It's like the poet is finally realizing, I am part of a stream. I'm not in this alone.
Exactly. And in that moment of connection to the past, what do they ask for? They stop asking for the shoelace fix. They stop asking for the barter system to end. What is the final prayer?
Make me keep writing.
That stopped me in my tracks when I first read it. After all this wrestling with the cosmos, the final plea is for the will to continue their creative work. Make me keep writing.
Why writing? Why is that the most important thing at the end?
Because writing is the act of processing. Writing is how the little mind tries to understand the big rope. As long as they are writing, they are fighting the good fight. They are thinking. They are engaging with the chaos and trying to find meaning. Writing is their form of prayer.
So if they stop writing,
they succumb to the void. They give in to the 4:04 a.m. silence. Writing is the lifeline. It's their way of holding on to the rope even with a little mind.
And then we get this final, very mysterious metaphor, the cloaks. The text reads, those not aware of their cloaks shall not be given cloaks, but if given neg, it is because of thee, O ancestral love.
We need to define cloaks. This isn't just about outerwear.
Please, is this like a Doctor Strange magical cloak?
In a way. In Sufi and other mystical traditions, a kirka, or a mantle, a cloak, is a symbol of spiritual authority or a divine gift. It represents a talent, a purpose, or a burden that is placed upon you by a higher power or a spiritual guide. It's your purpose, your unique identity in the cosmic scheme.
So everyone has a cloak. Or the potential for one.
Everyone has the potential for a cloak. But look at the rule the poet states. Those not aware of their cloaks shall not be given cloaks.
That sounds harsh. That sounds like a catch-22. We can't give you the job until you have experience, but you can't get experience until you have the job.
It does sound like that. It means you have to be conscious. You have to know thyself, as the Greeks said. If you are sleepwalking through your life, ignoring your gifts, ignoring your purpose, ignoring your connection to the divine, you don't get the mantle. You don't get the spiritual authority.
It's a competency test. You have to know you're a wizard to get the wand.
Basically, yes. And it sounds a lot like a barter system, doesn't it? Give awareness, receive cloak.
It does. After this whole journey of rejecting the barter system, it sounds like he's just landed on another rule. If you do X, you get Y.
But then, the exception, the loophole, the clause written in the language of grace. But if given Esh, it is because of the O ancestral love.
This is the but, the most important but.
This is the great but of the universe.
Yeah.
The poet is saying, according to the rules of the system, I shouldn't get a cloak. I'm unaware. I'm a little mind. I'm a hypocrite who just begged God to fix my shoelace. I fail the test of awareness.
But if I have this cloak anyway, if I have this gift of writing, this purpose.
It is because of thee. It is not because I earned it. It is because of grace. It is because ancestral love is stronger than the rules. It overrides the system.
That is the safety net. That's the unconditional love he was looking for all along.
That is the ultimate comfort. We mess up. We let go of the rope. We get tricked by our ego. We demand shoelace fixes. We fail to be aware of our own gifts, and yet we are still given the gift. We are still allowed to write. We are still loved, not because we earned it, but simply because we are loved, because of ancestral love.
That is incredibly reassuring. It takes all the pressure off. I don't have to be perfect to be worthy of my cloak.
You can be a complete mess and still be the best creation. The two are not mutually exclusive.
And the poem ends right there. Signed MW with that purple yin-yang symbol emoji.
Which is the perfect visual seal on the whole document.
Explain the yin-yang in this specific context. Why that emoji? Why not a period? Why not a heart or a prayer hands emoji?
Because the entire poem is about the dance of duality. It's about the tension between opposites and how they need each other. Think about all the pairs we've discussed.
The best creation versus the little mind.
Exactly. The realms of our potential versus the depths of our failure.
The pious versus the sinners.
The grand cosmic philosophy versus the broken shoelace.
The strict rule of the cloaks versus the exception of grace.
Light and dark, the yin-yang symbol says. These aren't enemies in a war, they are partners in a dance. You are not either a sinner or a saint. You are both, and the dot of one exists in the heart of the other. You are not either a grand philosopher or a helpless fool. You are both.
And they both exist in that backyard at 4:04 a.m.
Right next to the Honda Civic. The Honda Civic is the reality, and the yin-yang is the truth of that reality. Yeah. They aren't in conflict.
It's such a complete picture of the human experience. It really is. It starts with this grand, angry theological question, and it ends with just gratitude for being allowed to keep going, to keep writing, even when you feel like a fraud.
It's a beautiful, honest piece of work.
So we've been swimming in the deep end for a while here. We've talked about passion poetry, behavioral psychology, mystical cloaks, and the profound theology of shoelaces. But I want to bring this back to the listener.
The so what? The takeaway.
The so what? Why does this matter to the person driving to work right now who isn't a poet and who hopefully is not awake at 4 a.m. wrestling with the divine?
I think the source material matters because it gives us permission.
Permission to do what?
Permission to be contradictory. We live in a culture that demands consistency. You have to be on brand. You have to have a coherent worldview. If you are religious, you have to be perfectly pious. If you are secular, you have to be perfectly rational at all times.
But this poem says, I am none of those things. I am a mess.
This poem says you can be a deeply spiritual person and still get disproportionately angry about a broken shoelace. You can reject the idea of transactional faith intellectually, but still find yourself bargaining with God when things go wrong.
And that doesn't make you a hypocrite.
It makes you human. It makes you the best creation grappling with the little mind. The contradiction isn't a bug in the system. It's the feature. This poem validates that internal wrestling match that I think we all feel.
That is a relief. I feel lighter just hearing you say that. It's okay to be a walking contradiction.
Permission to be contradictory. We live in a culture that demands consistency. You have to be on brand. You have to have a coherent worldview. If you are religious, you have to be perfectly pious. If you are secular, you have to be perfectly rational at all times.
But this poem says, I am none of those things. I am a mess.
This poem says you can be a deeply spiritual person and still get disproportionately angry about a broken shoelace. You can reject the idea of transactional faith intellectually, but still find yourself bargaining with God when things go wrong.
And that doesn't make you a hypocrite.
It makes you human. It makes you the best creation grappling with the little mind. The contradiction isn't a bug in the system. It's the feature. This poem validates that internal wrestling match that I think we all feel.
That is a relief. I feel lighter just hearing you say that. It's okay to be a walking contradiction.
And there is one more thing that I think is really important for the listener.
What's that?
The cloak.
Yeah, that metaphor is still sticking with me. It's very powerful.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a question about that. The poet worries about being aware of their cloak, right? That you have to know you have it to be given it.
Right.
But flip that around. Think about what happens if you do become aware. Imagine you are walking through your life thinking you are just a regular person, and suddenly, maybe at 4:04 a.m., or maybe listening to this right now, you realize you have been wearing a cloak all along. A gift you didn't know you had, a purpose, a legacy of ancestral love that's been protecting you.
What happens in that moment of recognition?
That's the question I want to leave you with. In that moment of awareness, does the cloak suddenly feel lighter because you finally